on my blade. I see it. Fantasy time! You can't. Guess what my umbrella can turn into? They're taking it over. Exploding them! Watch this! Meteor Einstein! Here we go! Swings the whips away! You're done! You're done! Red Camellia, falls in snow. Fancy time! Restore order! Flying blood, bouncy whirlwind! You're gonna love this stuff. Got a summer surprise! The sun's flying. The cold is silent. Devil's coming at me. Let's ride away! Frost rests on my blade. You're done! Curves up! Exploding them! Sit still. Out to cream. Breathe. Easy. Lightning strike. Evil shall turn to dust. Shift! Obliterate Storm and Spirit. The time is now. Pay close attention to what I'm saying. Your life is here. Release! Today's work order? An opportunity. The verdict is unforgivable. Done in the name of the night adversary. Pretty, allow me. Spot an ethereal, shout for help. Take too slow. Complaint? Too late for that! Pretty, right?
Cycle of yin and yang. The moment has come.
Diamond!
Release. Evil shall return to dust.
Light upon this world!
Frost forces! Split the heavens! Cut through darkness! Stand down! Hit Split the heavens! Frost forces! The sword follows my well and winds howl in the heavens. The Qingming's might rends the heavens. Stand down. I'll be fine. I see ash.
Their poison is my grace!
Yep. Leave it to me.
Listen carefully. The tide of annihilation!
Evil. Cut through darkness. My blade cuts down evil. My spirit soars in the sky. Yexun Guang of Yun Kuei summoned, breaking all illusions. Pure frost. Radiant cloud.
Soldiers! Fight by my side!
Evil retreats. Cut through darkness. Evil retreats.